how do you select the next generation of buckfast? Because here people think that mating buckfast to any buckfast give buckfast as well, or even the opposite, that if you buy buckfast, it's like a hybrid and doesn't propagate at all.
Okay. If you mate buckfast to buckfast, you're going to end up with buckfast type bees. Okay. If you made it to something else, maybe you start a new line of which you can use in the buckfast in the future. It's just what you mate up, whatever you mate to mate. But look, if you look at dogs, okay, if you mate a poodle to a poodle, you're going to get poodles. If you mate it to an Alsatian, you're going to get something else. So mating buckfast to buckfast, and this applies to all bee subspecies, okay, or populations. If you're mating Carnica to Carnica, you're going to get Carnica. But I don't think any of the so-called subspecies are absolutely pure. Okay, they've all got some sort of mix from the other ones. So actually, people are saying, these are Carnica bees, but actually they've got some genes from other stuff, So actually everybody's using hybrids.
In Europe, there is a quite selective breeding towards varroa resistant. What is your opinion and experience with varroa resisting bees?
Okay, without actually selecting myself, okay, I can see that this characteristic is appearing in our bees, and I was quite surprised by this. So it seems like some sort of natural evolution on that. But let's face it, if the bees are resistant to varroa, they're going to do better anyway. So if we got better results from the hives, it might not only be because of their vigor, that it might also be because they're somewhat depressing the varroa populations. But what I also found out was when the VSH okay, is above a certain level, and a lot of the brood is destroyed, then there's a problem for the hive. You can't take it above a certain level. It will just collapse because the bees are just getting into destruct mode, and they're just destructing. They're just wherever varroa is, they're going, and then they're running out of bees eventually. I mean, you could see on the frame maybe 50% of the cells were being uncapped, and they were being some of them being recapped, but most of them were being pulled out and expelled from the hive. As I said, if the bees are doing well, obviously some things are playing.
Probably more resistant to viruses as well.
Probably,
tolerant.
Yeah. We don't have chalk brood. Okay, we don't have chalk brood exists. Okay, on the island, and so does American and European foul brood, but we don't see any problems with that. And when we do some testing with pin tests, okay, they're cleaning up within 8 to 12 hours. They're cleaning up everything. So I think I don't actually I haven't got enough time to do all the testing and work on this, but it seems like it's evolving along with the other selection that we do. I look at other things. I look like at the way the bees cap the honey. Okay, it doesn't affect the honey crop at all, but it's something that Brother Adam liked to see.
And the white cappings.
Yeah, and with air between the honey and the cappings, and I like to see that very much. And it's an indication when I have them in the Mini Plus that I have to watch this hive to see if it can be a potential breeder. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you test your potential breeder with a pin test for hygienic behavior?
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah. Not all the time. I haven't got enough time to progress with this. Maybe one day if I end up with 10 hives or 20 hives and I retire from sort of commercial queen rearing and producing, maybe I can work a bit more on that.
So you're more focused on the amount of honey that each hive is producing rather than everything else.
Yeah.
Okay.
And producing quality. I mean, really good queen cells and really good physically strong and vigorous queens. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, because it's the engine of the hive.
Yeah.
Okay, it's just so important to have good quality queens from a physical point of view and to have good genetics. We try to do things properly. Okay. But it's not always possible to do things how in theory we should do it because of the workload and it's in the spring is just chaos. As a beekeeper, you know that.
Yeah.
But through experience, generally, when we go to open up hives and when we're in the apiary, we know what's going on because we've seen it thousands of times.
So you have an intuition, something like sixth sense, or
okay, it's just experience. Okay, when you get to the apiary, you know exactly what's going on. That comes from years of trial and error, mostly errors.
Yeah. Okay. The only way for learning.
Yeah, there's a lot of holes that you can fall into.
No errors, only teachings.
Yeah. You have to learn from your mistakes and from the negative aspects of everything. My basic philosophy is that we want our customers to be happy with us, and we want to be happy with our customers. If they've got a problem, they have to tell us about it so that we can see if we made any mistakes in the past, because we're not perfect. Sometimes we do make mistakes.
We can't read genetics.
Yeah.
What do you think about the secret of keeping good buckfast bees?
Just basically, it's just selection and controlled mating. Okay, and also a breeder's feel for things. Rather when you have people that are breeding horses, okay, and they look at a horse based on experience, they decide whether they're going to use it for a breeder, okay, and pay millions of dollars for breeding stock, which sometimes works and sometimes doesn't work. But most of the time, you see how the bees react. You see the honey crops, as to seeing what sister groups produce. Okay, in different apiaries in different conditions. We have cooperation with some beekeepers in Crete and elsewhere in Greece, and they give us feedback, and sometimes they give us queens back that have done very well in their under their conditions. So we're using that material all the time and mixing it up and trying to keep hybrid vigor at a very high level.
You mean a hybrid vigor
between the lines?
But the people think that the hybrid vigor will stop for having effect after the first generation. What do you mean exactly by hybrid vigor?
Hybrid vigor between the different buckfast lines. We have to keep away from inbreeding. You mustn't have them too pure. And when you get it right, it's very, very good. The good thing about buckfast is because you've got all these different lines and all this genetic material, they have slightly different characteristics. So you can mix the one buckfast line with the other, okay, to improve, to go the way that you want to go, okay, without involving
Other.
some other thing, some other genetic material which has
races.
nothing to do with buckfast. And the different buckfast lines, they all have their different characteristics. And then when you combine them together, okay, you have the characteristics that you want, and you have the line hybrid vigor. Okay, you keep the vigor at a very high level. Some years ago, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago, Paul Youngles stood up and he said the bottle's empty because they sort of came to a sort of a halt because they couldn't introduce any more new genetic material, and there was a danger that they would have a depression in the breeding, but they managed to find some other. As you said, Horst Preissel, he managed to get Biomedica, okay, in the line.
Isn't it difficult to keep different lines separated in your operation?
Yeah, I mean, we know what is what, okay? We know where all the lines are or where they're from, okay? And we just mate them between themselves, what we think will match with what, and then we see what's happening. We watch what's happening, and because of the breeding eye, okay, the feelings I have about the hives, yeah.
So
like for aggression, if we go and open the hives without smoking, okay, and we see the reaction, some of them react not so well, some of them couldn't care less, you know, and then we see what's going on from there.
What you do with the hives with some unwanted characteristic, but they have many other good qualities like swarming, or it has some aggressiveness.
If they swarm, they're finished.
Okay. So
if they're aggressive, change the queen.
So you're not doing something like a balancing act and mating them.
No,
with
I haven't got time
better
for this. No. I'm a bit ruthless on this. Okay. If it's not up to sort of standard, forget it. Okay. It's just a waste of time. I mean, we tried in the beginning to try to continue with some hives like this. It's just more work and more trouble, and that, you know. At the moment, when we have access to very good material and we can just kill the queen and put a queen cell in it, and we can change the thing, change everything around.
I know that during Ballarat times, Buckfast was also quality standard, and nowadays the Buckfast monastery doesn't exist, and
it exists, but they don't produce anything.
And nobody controls the quality anymore. What do you think? What is your opinion about the Buckfast in the future, and how is the situation in breeding Buckfast in Europe right now?
Yeah, I think it's in very good hands with the various groups that are around. There's some very good breeders. Like Paul Youngles, Thomas Ruppel, and Ameland is doing wonderful work. They have 40 or 50 drone colonies on the island, which they select from a much larger number of colonies for that drone line, and they're always overbooked with the nukes that are coming there, and I think things are going well, very well.